Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now?
Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for joining us. It's another terrific Thursday's edition of Talk Today, and I trust and pray that you are as thankful as I am. Because every Thursday for this month, we're going to have the wonderful opportunity to be joined by a phenomenal lady whose strength, independence, resilience, and resolve, well, it shows you what we have in our community. You want to know who I'm talking about? Well, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks very much. And I'm very grateful that Ms. Renata Keskis has joined us. And
I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and be a co-host throughout the month of October.
yes,
We're going to have some very interesting guests throughout the month. And let's just begin with this. The theme of the month is better be safe than sorry.
Yep, better to be safe than sorry, huh?
Yeah, so our first guest this month will be Carol Ann, who's joining us from the Crisis Center. Thank you so much, Carol, for joining us. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're going to be talking about different things. It is a Domestic Violence Awareness Month at the Crisis Center, so I'm sure you're going to have loads of fun activities this month. I would like you to tell us about those. We also like to talk about how the current situation, obviously referring to COVID, has challenged your job and challenged the Crisis Center. Sterling?
Yes. You know, I am so glad. And for those who are listening, I believe that it's not just a varieties of spice of life. I believe that unfortunately in our lives, in our society, in the way civilization is being transformed, we're not appreciative of the need to have complementary and competing voices, the need to have people who are willing to step up, offer up their intellect, expertise, their experience. So Renata, your willingness to sort of come in and run with the baton helps us, man, because through you we'll get to appreciate what is happening with respect to domestic violence in this country, but maybe shine a light on ourselves so that our behaviors. I've done some introspection and understand that what I may do, believing that this is a positive, nurturing thing, could be seen as possessive, controlling, manipulative, even that's not the intent. And through maybe the discussion, you may think about domestic violence is only this physical, the financial, the sexual, this thing. or there was just this one act, but what has and how has that impacted? And especially last year, thinking that even now we're confined. By the words that we use so freely, we're locked down. I use the word house arrest because not to be funny.
Do you know what? Just briefly for the listeners before they ask, who is this girl with a strange accent and why is she going to talk about domestic violence? So
you love me to carry on, right?
By trade,
she maybe does.
By trade, I'm a trained bodyguard, self-defense instructor, author of the book called Running for Safety. I think this is how we met. You interviewed me a few months ago about my book, which is a self-defense manual for women. And I'm on a crusade to combat gender-based violence with my efforts. So, like we talked about this, unfortunately, gender-based violence is something that we can refer to as a shadow pandemic. So what do you think, how the situation here in Cayman has changed? Has it changed for the better or for the worse with all these lockdown measures?
Oh, I think it's. Lockdown is difficult for everyone. You know, the world over, and I think when it comes to violence, you know, so whether that's domestic abuse, whether it's child abuse, anything like that, if you're locked into, you know, a house or a space with someone who is your abuser, then where do you go from there? You know, how do you get help? How do you make that all-important phone call? You know, so I think lockdown has thrown us. I think that we were on the right track. I think we were starting slowly. I have to say, we were heading in the right direction with, you know, people such as yourself, you know, who are such a great advocate for gender-based violence and all of the issues, you know, around that. And I think your voice is so loud and people do listen, which is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
You know, but with your book and with, you know, your radio interviews, you know, people are actually taking notice and realising that this actually isn't acceptable and we can do something about it and we do have a voice and there is a way forward. And we were heading that way, and we still are. And then we were all locked down, you know, so it was kind of, we're all having these issues and it's great to talk about it, but now we're going to lock you up with that abuser. And that's terrifying. The very thought of that is absolutely terrifying. But that's the reality of, you know, what our clients we're living with and to a certain extent still are.
Once again, while I'm so grateful for you to accept our invitation, because I think we really we can combat this global pandemic only if we unite our efforts.
Absolutely.
And on that note, I would like to invite our male listeners to join the conversation, because gender-based violence is not gender blind. It's not a he thing or a he cheating, right? It's a we thing. So violence against men oftentimes referred as a silent crisis or a muted reality, because it is a muted reality.
It is, yeah, definitely.
But and this is where I think, Renata, your championing of this gender-based violence, I think too often we see us and them. It's a we thing. Or we look even in the context of what is transpiring globally, but even here, relative to people who want to take the injection or not. For me, just using the word vaccination is almost inflammatory. When we talk about people put on one side of the equation, unwilling to talk to the others. But then to come back to the notion of people being in a space. I just reached out to someone early this morning in preparation, and as his field sort of deals more with the people who are incarcerated. So lockdown, that word is applicable to prison-like situations. And he shared of another jurisdiction where, because of safety and security reasons, the prison had to lock down the population for different reasons. And in one particular cell, there were 2 inmates. And they knew that these inmates had an issue. So the guards were right there, just in case. But the psychological impact of one inmate being sort of fearful of the other, even though there was no threat of physical violence then, but he was unable, right, to rest, ended up having some sort of health emergency. just by being in the same, whatever size the cell is, with this person, even though right outside the cell there was a guard position, and they couldn't remove the prisoner at that time for those intervening hours. But the physical impact on this person, because of the sheer psychological trauma that he could have endured at the hands of this person, even through the bars, there is this guard.
I can imagine both the physical and the psychological impact. But I think this is the reason why it is important for us to get together, because I hope it's not going to sound too ignorant on my part, but normally I say that if you find yourself in a situation that is not comfortable, you have three choices. You either live it, accept it, or change it. I know it's easier to be said than to be done, especially if there are kids involved. But I think for listeners who might be out there and suffering, it's important for them to know that there is a way out, and there are agencies out there who can help in a time of need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, so probably one of the biggest questions that we get asked is, why doesn't she just leave? And that's for both men and women, but it tends to be about, women, because they report more, because we work with them more. There are a million reasons why she doesn't leave. And I think that people forget that within 6 months to a year of someone leaving a controlling relationship, they're more at risk then than they are at any other time. So sometimes it's actually safer to stay, bizarrely. So yes, you could be, there could be violence, there could be beatings, there will be control, there will be manipulation, but that is very often safer than actually leaving, because when you leave, as far as the perpetrator is concerned, they are losing control, and they will then do whatever it takes to get that control back. So it's really important. We would never say to someone, just leave. We will never do that. What we will do is show them their options. These are your options. This is how you do it. We will do a safety plan with them. We will get other agencies on board. The whole idea of multi-agency working is fantastic. We can't do this on our own. The crisis centre has 10 members of staff. We can't do end domestic violence across 3 islands entirely on our own. Although we're trying, but we need as many people on board, to help us do that, because it's for the community. We're not doing it for us. We're doing it for everyone, who lives on this island. So we need to do it together. We need to get everyone on board, other NGOs, the government. We need everyone on board and doing it together. We do it well and we do it together.
But as I listen to you, we'll pause for the first break. But we, as you said, even though it's the women predominantly who are reporting, we even in our language we say she, even though they're gender-based, male and female alike. So is that part of the challenge in the education, that we start to appreciate that anyone who is subject to an issue of domestic violence, male or female, then there needs to be a safe place. There needs to be an acceptance of society that this is not going to be tolerated. And if it's a case that, just in the weaker party, whether it's the man or not, society looking at him in a way that he stays there, just like the woman. Or if it's 6 months later, could we expound on that 6 month window as to why it's potentially safer to stay than to leave? And then rather we can talk about it from the perspective of how we can address this issue and what maybe the increased risk given what we have.
Talking about abuse and domestic violence can be a very difficult task for everyone. And that's why I understand a lot of people prefer to be anonymous about it. And there's a lot of stigma when it comes to violence against male, because it hurts but not sure, like persona or ego. And once again, we are in a small place. With Caroline, we said that we all know each other. So I think this issue has to be really dealt with in a very private manner. So when you address these issues, I think there's a certain way how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's different, and you know, it's not one fits all. You know, one size fits all. It's whatever is right for that person at that time. You know, everyone is completely different. It's like counselling. Counselling's a very, you know, individual thing. It's a very private thing. Some people, for example, after a bereavement, they need counselling there and then. Some people, it's not until 10 years later. Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same with domestic violence. It's not, you know, about, oh, this will fix you, but that's not what we're about. Yeah. No, there isn't a secret formula. Mm-hmm. It's just about getting to know each individual and what their individual options are, and that's what we'll do. You know, and you know, be it male or female, and they come to us with different questions. You know, men and women, they come to us in their heads with different solutions as well. So it's just about working through what feels right for them, what fits for them, and what's comfortable for them. Right. And so that's what we'll work with.
On that note, is the centre open for men as well? No, support.
So we have 2 buildings. We have our emergency shelter, which is only available for women and children at the moment. It's not feasible, it's not practical for men to be there. But we have Estella's Place. We have our walk-in centre on Eastern Avenue. So it's in Crown Square on Eastern Avenue. That walk-in centre is open to everyone. So I run the walk-in centre. I work with men regularly. At one point, it's not the case at the moment, but at one point I was working with more male clients than I was female.
Wow.
So when you're asking, are things getting better? That in itself, you know, would tell me that yes, they are, you know, because more men are coming forward. It's no longer unusual for, you know, a man to phone me and ask for an appointment because he's being abused by his partner. Or sometimes they're not sure if it's abuse. That's really common, you know, for men to come and say, it doesn't feel right, but I don't know if it's abuse, you know, and so it's kind of trying to get their own head around that. And I think it's taking them a long time to get used to that, because there is that stigma against it, you know. How do, if I'm 6 foot and my partner's 5'3", how do I then tell my friends that she's beating me up? You know, but men and women abuse in different ways. You know, a man might, you know, punch you with his fist. A woman will pick up an instrument, you know, and hit you with it. It's just as effective. You know, so it is. I think we're getting better. So no, they can't stay with us in the shelter, but they can come to us, you know, and we will work with them. And again, we will look at every option that is available to them.
All right, let's pause and take that break and come back. And I appreciate this discussion, as emotive as it is, as challenging as it is for us. And when we feel it directly, we can understand that it's not something that is only experienced by some. Statistics globally tell us, you know, that 33% of people are impacted by it. Maybe it's even more significant. All right, stay tuned. The phone lines are open if you want to weigh in and share your thoughts. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
You can now register to receive a securely verified digital copy of your COVID-19 vaccination status with QR code through the My HSA patient portal. Sign up is available at all HSA locations and at various sites throughout the community. To register, all you need is your photo ID showing date of birth and a valid email address. Visit hsa.ky and click My HSA Patient Portal for the sign-up schedule and more information.
To all of our essential workers who are dedicated to caring for us during COVID-19, please remember that caring for yourself is important too. Use appropriate PPE and practice social distancing whenever possible. Take breaks, take care of yourself, and take care of each other. Remember, we are strong, we are resilient, and we will continue to get through this together. For more information on COVID-19, visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And as Mr. Nato, extended invitation. Well, the phone lines are there, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255 is the floor toll-free line. Or you can WhatsApp, 925-3261. Renata Keskis joins us and every Thursday for this month. And if I'm fortunate enough, it might extend much longer. She'll sit here and co-host, right? That was her
It's my new title.
Okay, there you
co-host, a radio show co-host.
She's
I'm wearing it proudly.
Please do, man. She's an author, a trained, personal security specialist. Is that how I would term her? She's an awesome lady. So,
Thank you. Yeah. You're making me blush.
No, man.
Well, let's just give the word back to Caroline. Thank you so much once again for being here. I had a quick peek at your schedule for the month of October, and I saw on the 22nd of this month you will have your annual Silent Witness March initiative. What time is it going to kick in? Is everybody free to join? Where is the march going to?
Yes, absolutely. So all of the details are on our website and on our Facebook page, Instagram page, which you can find at CI Cayman Islands Crisis Centre. So there is a schedule for the whole month. There's lots of different things going on. The Silent Witness March is something that we do every year and something that we're very passionate about. And it is it's a great tradition, and it's a tribute, if you like, to everyone and anyone who has lost their lives or lost their voices through domestic violence. So it leaves from the government building. So in the afternoon, I think it's about 3 p.m. normally it starts. So it leaves from the government building, and we make our way on the road in silence down to the courthouse. And there's usually a platform there, and we will have a speaker coming along who will talk about domestic violence, sometimes about their own experiences, really just in line. And it's about raising awareness. You know, it's about making people realise just how serious this is. So we carry, the red silhouettes. I don't know if you've seen, so they represent the people that, have lost either their lives or lost their voices, which is why we call it Silent Witness. And I find that, it kind of makes my hairs, raise, and I just find it quite emotional sometimes. But I think it's a fantastic thing, and, and it's something that we will continue to do. So yes, please come along and join in.
I agree with you, and I think it's great how the Crisis Center offers this, even though we can call it a platform for people from all walks of life to come together and make a stand against.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once again, shadow pandemic that we call gender-based violence.
Yeah.
I've also seen that in each district you're going to host an awareness meeting. What is that about?
So we have an outreach coordinator, Marisha, who is normally sitting here and doing all these interviews because she's so good at it. So Marisha is she's so busy this month. So she's working her way around. I think she was talking to someone last night as well. So a lot of it's kind of out of hours. But yeah, again, it's just about reaching every district. So she was up in East End last night, and so it's really just about making sure that everyone knows that we're there for them. Although we're based in Georgetown, we don't just work with Georgetown, it's with the whole island, it's with all 3 islands. So again, it's about raising awareness. It's just like, reminding people we are still here, this is still an issue, and if you need help, then, reach out to us and we will help.
As I listen to you, there's a message on my digitally linked, almost inextricably unable to leave device that's appended to us so much. This person is waiting. It's a great discussion. Glad to see that you referencing men as you talk about gender-based as opposed to just violence against women. But is domestic violence domestic violence? Liz, well, let me ask that first part.
Okay, so I think some people get confused by the term domestic violence because they think violence needs to be involved.
Yeah.
So you have to have been physically struck, Domestic abuse is a more accurate term.
Okay.
So whether that's, emotional, psychological, financial, sexual, it's abuse. It's not just about violence, because it's about control. It's about having power and control over someone. And if someone is able to gain that power and control without using violence, then a lot of the time they will. And that's why when I was talking about, it's more dangerous for people to leave, they're then losing that control. And that's when it's more likely to become violent and can result in death as well. So, yeah, I think for me personally, I think domestic abuse is probably a more accurate term than domestic violence.
Okay.
Do you know what? Whenever I host a self-defense class, I never just see the self-defense class where I just deliver techniques. It's a situational awareness and self-defense class. Because I truly believe, especially, once again, I don't want to exclude younger boys, but oftentimes I have girls. I always highlight the importance of having boundaries and recognizing the difference between connection and attachment.
Yeah.
Because just like you said, in domestic abuse can have many forms. It is not just physical in nature, but it can be emotional, psychological, and those scars run very, very deep.
Absolutely.
So I think especially for the younger generation who's going to start now, going to the dating scenes, it's important for them to understand that it's better to be safe than sorry and have those boundaries and before somebody crosses them.
Yeah, and I think, it's really difficult because when you're young and you meet someone, no one falls in love with an abuser. No one. It just doesn't happen. So when you're young or whatever age and you meet someone for the first time and they're everything that you dreamed that they would be, they're charming, they're attentive, they're loving, they're showering you with compliments, with gifts, they're taking you out, you are their world. That's the person you fall in love with. Okay, that's not necessarily the person that they actually are. And domestic abuse comes in very slowly and people don't notice it. You don't just wake up one day and, you're lying next to an abuser. It happens very, very slowly and it catches you unawares. So it will start a lot of the time with, I don't want you to see your friends. Why do you want to go out? But that's, taking you away from me. I love you so much. I just want to spend all my time with you. And that's really easy to fall into that. When you're just so besotted with this person, they think, but he loves me so much. And what they're actually doing is taking you away. They're isolating you so that the more that you refuse to go out with friends, the more that you refuse to see family, they'll stop asking, and eventually they will have you exactly where they want you all to themselves. And it happens without you even noticing that it's happened.
Is that, sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick note. In my book, there is a line about gut feelings, having a gut feeling, which is your built-in security system that will give you away something is wrong. It's just, I cannot say it more simpler than it is. If something feels wrong, it is wrong. Like you said, oftentimes people reach out to you and they're just not sure if they are being abused, if they're not being abused. Something feels wrong, but they just cannot put their finger on it and they just cannot define. But I think this is the reason why it's important for people to realize that gender abuse or domestic violence, it always escalates. It starts with verbal abuse, and it's just it can go as long as you let the perpetrator to go.
Carla, as you sharing just then, that person gradually insulating and isolating the other from friends, family, and so. Is that a conscious decision at the outset, or is it just something that evolves? I mean, is the abuser consciously looking at, if I may use it, the victim, and slowly but surely, methodically, just doing this thing to control, manipulate, or is it just something that happens? And there's a reason why I want to ask you, but let me ask that first. So is that a conscious, deliberate thing on the part of the abuser?
100%.
Okay. That's my take, right? We can read a lot, and sometimes we actually understand what we read. So in preparing for our monthly discussions, I really appreciate some of the insight, as I do with Dr. Bordens on our monthly mental health matters. So I reached out to some couples that I know have been together forever. And with their consent, say, okay, because this show coming up, today's discussion is this, and I would like to look at your relationship from what I know and share. And I've observed that both, but one of the spouses more so than the other, for the other spouse and for the children. Very, my words, very attentive. The comings and goings. In the past, when there were incidents of increased crime against the people in the community, they would talk to each other on the phone just to make sure you get from work to the office, especially if there was, that season where you're working late and different things, right? And I believe I have a sufficient connection to them that I could ask very specifically. Do you see this as abuse on the spouse's part? As a spouse, do you think this, right? And initially, overwhelming was no. This person, I'm in the car safely. I can stop to the shop and no issues, right? No issues over anything. One of the three came back and said, because of discussions, I've wondered that. We've had conversations about it after and realizing that it wasn't intended, but it can be construed as such. So I'm wondering at what point it may have been not just a conscious, deliberate, manipulative thing, but the thing that has become the accepted norm, the tellings of the goings and the comings, the inquiries as to what is transpiring, that now that has led to, my words, right? If I say a little learning is a dangerous thing, to a dependency, not so much a codependency, but a dependency that somehow is that straddling that fine line between, well, not necessarily abuse in the way that we would term it, but maybe a level of control. I know it's a little bit different from where we are, but is there such a fine line that crosses over into abuse?
I think for me, it's a really interesting question. I've never been asked that before. Wow.
Trust me, I'll ask him.
No, it's an interesting point, though. I think for me, as long as it feels safe and it feels okay for both of them, then that's okay. If it's when it starts being overpowering, it's when it stops being your choice, and it stops being something that you're comfortable with. If it feels like, you don't have the choice whether that happens or not. Okay. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if she was able to say, or he was able to say, it's okay, I've got this. Yeah. And that was accepted, then that's fine. Right. But I mean, some people, that is just how they're, what's the perfect relationship? Right. Everyone's different. What works for me wouldn't necessarily work for other people. If that works for them and that's a joint decision, and that's a mutual thing, then that's fine. That's just their relationship. It's when it stops being mutual, and it stops being acceptable to one of them.
And I appreciate that, because, like I said, what is that relationship? And the reason I'm asking is that I'm trying to ask ourselves, I do this for me. How do you improve you today so that you're better than what you were yesterday? Not you better than the other person, but you being the best you. So then we start to, like I said, the fourth sort of, I don't want to use a couple, but two individuals, same sex, but no interference, no allegation, no suggestion by anybody other than these are very, very close friends, lifelong friends. And they have a similar relationship where there is this, my words, codependency. And just like, I'm leaving work now, I can meet you there, but boy, and they chat. And so I asked one of them, how does that feel? And they say, well, if this person leaves my life, sickness, illness, disease, they depart because of jobs or whatever, there would be a void that can't be filled. I'm very much attached to this person. So much so that if this person says, you should do this or not do this, it would weigh so heavily on their lives. So then I asked them, I said, do you see that as a relationship of control and manipulation? And again, in relation to today's discussion. And, they both were there. One, my perception, is a little bit more influential on the other than the other on the one, so to speak, right? And I don't want to take away from our context, but I'm wondering, in this new world in which we find ourselves, how much of, Renata, as you champion, this gender-based violence are we looking at to see it beyond the physical, the psychological, the emotional, the financial, the level of abuses that we're facing in our society? And are we consciously aware of the need for this level of public discussion so that we evaluate our behaviors?
Do you know what? Let me promote my services a little bit, if I may. I always say that only those can excel in their professional and in their private life who feel empowered, confident, and safe. So, hit me up for a self-defense class. Seriously, what I think is, if you are confident and if you have your life together, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to be viewed as a potential prey, someone who can be easily tapped on. So hopefully, maybe that confidence will have a power to repel narcissists.
I think that's what I like with getting to this opportunity to be acquainted with you and to learn, is that if we become, sadly we've used the word so much now that it's become a cliche, empowered, develop that sense of self-awareness, situational awareness, self-confidence, that even as an adult we can interact with maybe younger people, as parent, as coach, as educator, but even with our contemporaries, our peers, we know who we are.
I think oftentimes what the problem is that people expect happiness from their spouses, whereas I think it is your personal responsibility to find a way to your happiness. The relationship is to make you happier. If it doesn't, then there is no point.
All right. Well,
but I think some people just feel comfort in taking the back seat and just expect everything from others to provide.
I always question, are we willing to lead, to follow, or just get out of the way? So let me ask, our mental health and wellness, I wonder to what extent that plays a role in us being the aggressor or the prospective victim. Inability and unwillingness to be independent, to seek our own happiness, to recognize that this thing looks and feels like something that isn't healthy in our gut. We're unsettled. And I wonder if it's the mental anguish that we're facing, maybe compounded now by the reality of our lives, the fear of loss of job, the fear of being sick, maybe the things that transpired in our earlier life, as it were, and now being unable to process it, to cope with what is happening with the reality of where we are.
What I would say to that is, domestic abuse does not discriminate. It doesn't really care how wealthy you are, what job you do, what religion you are, what colour you are. It does not discriminate. Whether you earn millions and you're the most powerful man or woman, in the country, you can still be a victim of domestic violence. I think people often have this perception that the poor and the weak, if you like, or the vulnerable, maybe is a better word, are more likely to be affected by domestic abuse than anyone else. That just isn't the case at all. Absolutely everyone. When you think about 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men are affected by domestic violence, you then have a meeting with 10 people, a mixture of men and women. The chances are half of them, at least, have either experienced it themselves or know someone who has experienced it. So if you're in a boardroom, you're all at a very equal level. You know, so there is no kind of discrepancy between, okay, you've maybe got the chair of that board, for example, but everyone else, you're at a sort of a level playing field, if you like. Still, the stats will remain the same. 1 in 3 of those women and 1 in 4 of those men will have experienced domestic violence.
Despite education and economic status. All right, after the break, Les, you okay? We continue the discussion, Mr. Renata. We're at 1 o'clock already.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to pause and take a break. We want you to weigh in on it, and we want you to recognize that this is something that we can impact because it impacts us. So please join us after the break.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
CUC reminds you always to be aware of power lines. Look before planting trees. Always ensure that the tree you are planting will not grow in overhead power lines. Check with the CUC's customer service team at 949-5200. or via email at service@cuc.ky to ensure your plan of action is safe. Safety first at CUC.
COVID-19 vaccines are the only way forward in reopening our borders safely. Take the COVID-19 vaccine to protect yourself and the ones you love, especially those of us who cannot get vaccinated. For more information on the COVID-19 vaccine, visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brack to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Needs Assessment Unit's district visits continue in October on Fridays. Clients are reminded to wear face masks and practice social distancing and comply with other current government regulations for prevention of COVID-19. Friday, November 8th, the NAU will be at Boddentown Public Library from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And Friday, November 15th, the NAU will be at the West Bay Public Library from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. In international news, the number of countries on England's COVID travel red list will be cut from 54 to 7, the government says. South Africa, Brazil, and Mexico come off the red list, which requires travelers to quarantine in an approved hotel at their cost for 10 full days. This latest move will be seen as a boost to the airline industry and families separated during the pandemic. Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic remain on the red list. Prince Andrew has been granted access to a sealed document his lawyers believe could help end the sexual abuse case being brought by Virginia Giuffre. The Duke of York has consistently denied the allegations. Ms. Giuffre claims she was sexually assaulted by the prince at 3 locations, including New York City. 76 years after the end of World War II, a former concentration camp guard has gone on trial for assisting in the murder of 3,518 prisoners at Sachsenhausen near Berlin. Joseph S. is accused of complicity in the shooting of Soviet prisoners of war and the murder of others with Zyklon B gas. Time is running out for Nazi-era criminals to face justice, and he is the oldest defendant so far to stand trial. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today. Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks for joining us. And thanks to Ms. Renata Keskes for joining us.
My pleasure.
Better safe than sorry, eh?
Better safe than sorry. The theme of the month.
There you go, man. I like it. Every Thursday she's going to be here with us. And,
yeah, please tune in. We're going to have some very interesting guests on the show.
And just to start it off, I think no one better than this topic to talk about how gender-based violence affects us, and I think they put a role at the crisis center.
So once again, month of October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month at a crisis center household.
Her family.
Yes.
And I think, but Ms. Caroline, maybe I can ask you shared something at the outset that I think should be repeated so people appreciate it. That when we look at, the violence against people, and I like the fact that you use domestic abuse as opposed to domestic violence. I like the fact that you share that there is a stigma, and probably as much for men to report being the subject of abuse because of how society will see them. They'll probably say, what kind of man you 7 foot tall, full of muscles like that, men at work song, and your partner is, 4'11", in heels. Yet we don't see the impact. But you also share that the men are not sure if what they experience connotates abuse.
Yes. So some of the male clients that I've had at the walk-in, I had one gentleman in particular who, came and said, I just wanted to come and speak to you because I think I may be being abused, but I'm not sure. And I said, okay, that's fine. Let's have a chat. And he told me that one of the worst stories I've heard in my 20-year career in domestic abuse that actually just made my blood run cold. He'd been admitted to hospital 3 times at the hands of his partner, and he still couldn't quite accept that it was domestic abuse.
Wow.
And I don't know if that was just something personal to him. I think there is embarrassment there. There is a form of denial as well. They don't want it to be true. And so I do think that men do find it quite difficult to accept that this is happening to them,
right.
And he became quite emotional when I said to him, absolutely, that is abuse.
Would you say that out of shame, they're reluctant to report that they're being abused?
I think it's a lot of different reasons. I think it's embarrassment. I think it's shame. I think it's denial. I think they don't want it to be true. They want it to stop. Women, that's what they want as well. They don't report things because they want to get their abuser into trouble. They report it because they want it to stop. Men want exactly the same thing. And quite interestingly, a lot of the men that I've worked with in the walk-in centre, they will say to me, can you have a word? Can you call her? Can she come and speak to you? I say, well, she can come and speak to me, but I can't call her. She needs to call me. But it's almost, that kind of simplistic. If you talk to her, and just tell her to stop, then it'll be fine. And I do think a lot of it is denial. I think it's lack of education as well. They don't always, again, people do perceive women to always be, the one who's being abused, and that's just not the case. And I know that even at the crisis centre we talk more about women than we do about men. That's just because they're our biggest clients. It's not because we don't think it happens. We absolutely know it does. And I think, within the community, it feels maybe a bit more comfortable if it's a woman being abused than a man. I'm not sure. I don't know what the actual answer is, but you would need to ask them, I suppose.
I was going to ask you about some stats, but because we are not sure how many people are really reporting the abuse while they are being abused. I assume the number is, I'm sure that the number would not be accurate.
No, I mean, it's really difficult to take stats, and we do have stats, but it's completely underreported, and I think especially during lockdown, and we were sort of braced and ready, for this, that the phone to be ringing off the hook during lockdown, because we thought they're locked in together, and that just wasn't the case. But in hindsight, when you think about it, they were locked in together, so when is she going to, or is he going to get the chance, to phone, because they're always together. So it made it much more difficult, and I think then what happens as time passes and the abuse stops, you have the cycle of abuse where it does that wheel never stops, it keeps turning, and they will go to the next section. So you'll start in maybe the honeymoon phase, and then you'll move your way around. Eventually you'll get to the explosive phase, but that will then stop and it will go to reconciliation, abject apologies, I'm so sorry, it's because of the situation we're in, this is unprecedented, the whole world's in a pandemic, it'll never happen again. So by the time lockdown ends, it's almost forgotten, because that's a bit easier than reporting something that happened in the past. People sometimes struggle with that. They think it doesn't matter. Well, why didn't you report it at the time? We'll never say that. Report it. I don't care when it happened. Report it. But sometimes that it feels easier. It feels, better for people. They believe, because they want to believe, it'll never happen again.
As I listen to you, I mean, I can see in the case of many, and men perhaps, the shame, the embarrassment, the disbelief, but the potential ridicule. We may have seen, in other jurisdictions, whether on a film or even reported here, where the police officers are like, really, you've been abused? And the society looking at the man or the person and concluding, well, why can you be so stupid to stay in that situation? But as you shared, it's safer sometimes and easier to remain. So,
why I normally say that I'm on a crusade to tackle gender-based violence is because, as we established today, violence knows no gender, it doesn't discriminate, and it's lawmakers, religious leaders, everybody has a role to play. We can only combat this if we unite our efforts. And like you just pointed it out, there is a belief out there that you can be ridiculed, you can be subject to mockery if you admit that you are exposed or if you experience abuse if you are a man. So I think we need to develop a different kind of mindset here.
Right. Is it then, we can talk about abuse and we can list the different, and they seem to be acts of commission. But what about acts of omission? I'm thinking of the partner, male or female, who may be denied a certain level of interaction and the engagement, the conversation, the companionship, the things that you would get from people close to you, the intimacy, however that plays out. Would that connotate abuse?
Well, that's emotional abuse. So if you imagine a child who was never touched, who was never hugged, who was never praised, who was, never had anything nice said to them or about them, you would automatically say that child was neglected, by their parents. If a parent never hugged a child, never held its hand, why would that be any different to an adult? If you're in a relationship and there is no, there's no hugging, there's no, anything at all, that there's no kind words, that there has to be a reason why you're in that relationship, and it didn't start like that. So sometimes that can be a punishment. I will withdraw. Holding hands, I will withdraw. Sitting next to you, I will withdraw from hugging you or kissing you. That's emotional abuse. So if you did something that they didn't agree with, then I'm going to withdraw from you emotionally. So that's a punishment almost. Okay. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, this is where I'm very glad, Ms. Renata, that you've reached out that we can have this discussion, because I think through educational opportunities like this, we start to appreciate that we're in this together. It's all about us, not us and them. It's we, as you shared. And abuse is abuse, right? People are in need of interaction. And we're built to, I use the word fellowship. We're built to socialize.
Yeah, I think once again, I would like to thank you for joining us today, and thank you for organizing the silent march. Once again, it's on the 22nd.
22nd, outside the government building. Yeah,
at 3 o'clock.
I think so. Double check that.
Okay,
but I think
I'm pretty sure we're going to have to social distance and wear masks.
Probably. I don't know exactly the details, but the march itself won't be quite as big an issue, because we'll be able to be quite easy to social distance once we get to the courthouse. Then we'll probably the way the seating is. We're lucky that it's outside though, at least.
Yeah, well, let's hope for a sunny afternoon.
Hope it doesn't rain.
Yeah. This is for me. I think we both learned a lot.
Yes.
And we would like to encourage everyone to come and join us, because I will be there on the 22nd.
Excellent.
To make a stand and stand up for those who have no voice or visibility and who need our support.
Absolutely.
Still like a true Wesleyan, no voice, no visibility. You know what I say to you publicly and privately, and this is what I like. We can have a jovial approach to serious things. We can impact people in a loving, kind way with a sense of civility and sobriety if we're prepared to stand in the gap. And I commend you for it. And more of us that appreciate that, abuse is abuse, that we need to not allow it to happen. And sometimes even when it's transpiring under our noses that we're the culprit, we may not even be cognizant that that's the intent, but that's the impact on the other, and maybe for different reasons. Huh? So let's get to a space where these conversations change us in a positive way.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right.
Thank
you.
So
next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
Next week, Thursday.
Same time, same place.
That's right. See the best radio station on earth, right?
Yes. We're going to have a guest on the show. We're not going to reveal just yet who is it going to be.
Yeah.
But we're going to be talking about how to medically prepare for tropical disasters, because we are still in hurricane season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask a very important question, which is, how many rolls of a toilet paper do I have to go through a tropical storm? I mean, searching for answers. Hopefully I'm going to get mine next week.
There's a good film to watch. No spoons, no forks, but anyway.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning and listening to us. This was Renata. Have a lovely afternoon. Go and be kind to each other.
She's amazing. And thanks, Ms. Caroline, for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The preview for next Thursday's conversation. But when we come back, there'll be some open line for the remainder of the program. So let's talk about any and everything. Join us right after this break.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
In 1895, the ship the Prince Frederick wrecked on the south coast of Cayman Brac, carrying the young sailor Samuel Sidney Saunders. Saunders would later choose to remain in the Sister Islands, eventually marrying into a Caymanian family. Although not highly educated himself, Saunders was instrumental to the education system of the Sister Islands, having taught in both Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. He would start a private school in Little Cayman, was district constable of the Sister Islands, and opened a school in State Bay following the 1932 storm. In the 1930s, the school was attended by Captain Charles Kirkernel. Ironically, Captain Kirkernel's father attended Saunders School in Little Cayman a generation earlier.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. It is open line now on this edition of this Thursday's Talk Today. Thanks again to Miss Renata for coming on board. A wonderful, phenomenal lady, very strong, independent thinker and actor. And I'm hopeful that on Thursdays for this month of October, you'll be a part of our continuing discussion. This is where we see the incredible resource that is within our society, and we should, as much as possible, reach out so that we can embrace it and build those bridges. But what is on your mind? Share your thoughts with us, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. If you wish, you can WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us. I can only begin to imagine for some of us who may be facing what they think is probably unprecedented times, certainly unprecedented for them. That growing sense of being afraid, that fear that sometimes paralyzes many. Fear of loss of income, so they're no longer employed, or not having sufficient money to meet the basic needs, to put food on the table, to clothe and feed and house. Those are not things that are unreal or unimagined by many of us. A good friend reminded me earlier that the world and civilization has changed and is changing, and what will that look like going forward? Will there be sufficient food? Is food security the thing that is worrying, political leaders, households, individuals? Is it that we're worrying a lot about nothing? And in that consideration / worry, what preemptive, proactive measures can we employ to ensure? Now, there are many of us who really, really don't give a second thought to anything. And we wonder, is it because they're so selfish and self-absorbed? Or are they better off in the sense that, why worry about it? I mean, we look at the scriptures and we say, well, look at the birds of the air and, this, that, and the next thing. They're not worried, so why should you? Well, again, I ask oftentimes when we quote scripture, do we understand what we're saying? Are we misinterpreting? Has it been improperly translated? Are we applying it incorrectly? Well, let's have a discussion. Let's do so in a very civil, respectful, responsible manner. Let's appreciate that if it is indeed a democracy, that we should have that right to share our opinions. Now, whether people listen and accept it, well, it's on us. But at least let's recognize that with that right, there's that corresponding responsibility to, and I'll extend it to two parts. One, to share that opinion, and two, to do so in a way that invites continuing dialogue and discourse. Because only through that healthy discussion are we able to either be convinced that our view is the only view, the best view, or more importantly, to recognize that there are other views that when combined with ours may improve the outcome or may cause us to, dismiss or not be so dogmatic in our view, or it may actually recognize that there is a better view. There's a view that combines and improves. Well, your thoughts. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. They say that, idle hands are what? Well, maybe sometimes when you have downtime is when you're able to think. And through that pensive thought process, you may actually come up with wonderful outcomes and probabilities of things that are, good if they're employed. Now, where are we? Are we so busy that we don't have time to fellowship? Or are we so busy that we don't even have time to think? We're so busy we don't exercise nor sleep. We're so busy that we don't eat. We're so busy, right? But are we productive? 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. And in this busy, hectic, hurried lives, are we happy? And to the phones we go. Good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
How are you today, my friend?
Thankfully grateful as usual, yeah?
Yeah, man. And thank you, too, for listening and for having the time to share your thought with us.
I'm calling on a different topic today about this coronavirus thing.
Yeah, man, go right ahead.
Some of these supermarkets are taking this thing out of proportion.
Okay.
This morning, normally I go to Kirk's for breakfast to buy my fruits in the morning, yeah?
Yeah.
And as you go through the entrance door, you know you have to sanitize.
Uh-huh.
Which I did. I saturated my hands, and it took me about under a minute to go to the salad bar.
Uh-huh.
And on reaching there, the security wanted me to sanitize my hands again. My hands were still wet. I was still rubbing my hands together to get them to dry. And I showed it to the security. I said, look,
yeah,
my hands are still wet from just from the door to that distance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he wanted to bully me. I said, you guys are taking this thing way out of proportion, man.
Mm-hmm.
The other day I witnessed a lady, the same incident, and she actually shouted at the security, said, look, you guys are bullying me. My hands were saturated. I did so.
Mm-hmm.
And you all wanted me to do this again?
Yeah.
You know, it's going to the extreme. These people are going to the extreme. And I was so frustrated. I said, you know what? I'm here to spend my money to get breakfast. I'm not going to go through all of this foolishness. It's out of proportion. So I just walked out and I said, you know what? I'm not against. I'm so compliant with the rules and regulation, but they took it out of proportion, man. You can't be. My hands are still wet. I said, look. Here, my hands are still wet. I was rubbing them together to get them to dry to go serve myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they need to organize their thing a lot better than the way they have it.
I'm glad that you referenced that because I think we're probably not appreciative of this potential impact, right? That this is having on not just businesses but people's mindsets, people. Almost unwillingness now to be tolerant, and on one hand it's just because of how I think we should look at things and ask questions, right? On one hand there'll be those who say, well, maybe this is the ploy of many to grow a divided society in order to lead to more control, or it may be that people are not cognizant of the impact it's having on us as people, on our social and psychological well-being. Now, what do we do? Because to your example, I've seen that many times. I've also had one very pleasant experience going to a supermarket, and the lady who was employed by that particular security company, unlike her other colleagues, she was absolutely amazing in the way she greeted, the way she sort of approached me. I'm thankful because had it been like the gentleman prior, I don't know that my response would have been as kind and as nice, right? So you, me, and others are probably feeling the same thing. So what do we do? Is this a lack of instruction to people so that there's a considerate approach, or is it the individual feeling so empowered with this level of authority that they can dictate, what you should do and how you should do it?
To me, Dwayne, they need to organize their resources in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Because you come through the door, you sanitize.
Mm-hmm.
When I get out of my car, before I even got out of my car, I have my sanitizing in my car. As I come out, I wipe my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go to the door, I enter, I wipe my hands, I sanitize, I walk. From that door entrance, you can actually sit at the entrance and see the salad bar.
Yeah.
And it didn't take me a minute.
But
I stated my hands were still wet, and
right.
I said, look, here, sanitize again, sir. I said, man, what's this for? It's taking a negative impact on us.
Yeah.
And, if I'm spending my money, I don't want to be terrorized like in Target. I don't want that.
Exactly. And let's think about it, right? Let's use the supermarkets and maybe as the reps and the people who work in the supermarkets, including some of the others in the public health arena, maybe as a listener they can appreciate that there needs to be a little bit more of a humane, considerate approach to this thing. But we go into the supermarket, there are 2 or 3 people at the entrance. The position around the place, it would be akin to a military battlefield, and but for the presence of guns, it would almost seem like that. So there are some supermarkets, as I listen to you and I walk the aisles in my head, you've got as many security people there, with these things in their hands, and the sanitizer is replaced in the gun, as it were.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of control and order that we want in our society?
Then let me tell you something. The law is control enough for us, and we abide by them. But we have a right and a freedom to go and shop in peace and tranquility. I don't want to be harassed with security hovering over me. I'm not stealing anything. I'm the first one to abide by laws because I'm an employee, right? I a guy to work, and I led by example. I said, look, I'm going to take the vaccine,
Okay.
and if you guys want to work for me, you have to take it. To which they complied with it. So I'm always leading by example doing it.
Right,
so,
right.
I try to do my best to abide by the rules and the regulation of the law of the land. I don't try to break them, but this incident this morning, it just threw me off.
I can understand that, man. I
didn't even get my fruit for my breakfast. I just walked out and said, you know what, the hell with this.
Yeah, and I think this is what is going to increasingly happen. And thankful that you're that civil individual, because there may be me or the next one who might say, you know what, I had enough of this, and the next thing there's a scuffle, and what could have been a simple thing to avoid it because of the frustrations and the inability to control oneself at that time has now resulted in this horrible thing happening, right? So let me then ask, and this is concerning because I'm hearing it more and more from people. I was thankful that a gentleman with whom I have the greatest and utmost respect and love for, has shared it. We're now as a people saying, boy, thankful, not dead, as if this thing is so rampant and so deadly that when allegedly we heard some reported allegations of breach, there's an armed response from police. A virus now going to be killed by bullets. Have we lost all sense of not just civility and humanity, but good sense?
Yeah, I think we have lost our good sense. But we have to live with this, Dwayne.
Yeah.
It's a worldwide thing now. We have to learn to live with it and live as civil people with it and get along and work this together hand in hand.
Yeah, man.
Some of these companies, they're taking it way out of proportion. For what reason, I don't know.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm hopeful that your call would resonate with people in a positive way to understand that there needs to be a reconsideration of approach. I'm also hopeful that we as people would do as you, me, and many of us do, take our personal hygiene up a notch if we can, and to be, I'm sure you, like many of us, probably our friends and closest friends and family probably thought of us as germaphobes and weird because we washed our hands often and hand sanitize long before this thing came into play. But that's just who we are and what we did, right?
This was what I was raised doing that. We were raised up doing that.
Cleanliness next to godliness, right?
Exactly. So,
Fair
anyways,
enough.
that's
thank you, my
point.
friend. And
you have a good one, yeah?
you too, man. Sorry that was your experience, and hopefully it won't occur again. Huh? All right, let's take some more.
Because I don't think I'll be going back there for the morning.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I have stopped going some places because of the same unfortunate approach by contracted staff. Huh? All right, my friend.
Yep. Yeah, all right. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you too. Let's take another call. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Yo, Mr. Dude.
My friend, how are you today?
Right here, sir.
I'm glad to hear it, man. I am always prayerful, and trust and pray that you and the family are all well.
Yeah, man. I try and. I try and. But let's remember something. Culturism overrides policies. You understand?
Right.
Always. They can't ever beat. Like what we say, we always cleanly up around here. They can't ever beat that. They can't ever come and say, you're not clean enough to come inside. But let's remember, Let's ask them if they clean enough to come outside. Dirty one. But one last thing. You see when it comes to taking your test or your vaccine, that should be my choice. You can't make me choose if I want alcohol, tobacco, or ganja, right? What the difference is with this vaccine? You can't come tell me about the benefit or the good. You can go look at the rest of them billionaires. They try and get a spaceship and leave out here, not sure.
Well, it seems like we dictate whoever, whatever, because of the money that they have, right?
Yes, and I feel that is wrong. If you have more money than me, you can't come and tell me I should take this vaccine for you. So I just gotta leave it there.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm hoping. Thank you very much, too. Maybe we can take one more before the break. Good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Well, good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, how are you today?
I don't know if you have any guests there. If they're there, good afternoon to them too.
Right now, it's just me and you, and whoever's on the other side.
It is just open mic, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, a similar topic to what you're talking on, but not exactly the same thing. You're talking about the behaviors and stuff that they're carrying on.
Right.
A friend of mine, she said she went to a very established building on Saturday, organization, and Main Street, to receive some goods. And she said when she went there, the caliber of people that was there, the behavior they were carrying on was ridiculous. She said she was in the line, waiting her turn like everybody else, and she said the behavior they were carrying on was ridiculous. She said she stepped out of the line to walk to the front of the line to tell the person that was leading the pack, the organization that was giving the services, to tell them that she did not want to be a part of that behavior. So she was letting them know the behaviors. Well, you know what the gentleman told her? That if she would like to get some of what is there, she must just don't worry about the behavior and just stand in line. So this is the kind of people that we got that is heading our organizations. It's a shame and a disgrace. I mean, do we have to sit down and accept this kind of behavior? It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And then to look at you and tell you if you want it, you must just shut up and pretend you don't see it or don't say a word. This is something we need to accept. These people need to understand that when they come here, they need to be able to behave and conduct themselves in a proper manner. And if they're not going to do that, they need to go home.
Well, so
we don't need that kind of behavior here. That's why you got to get mandates for them, because the government is trying to view them out from their behavior.
Okay, but let's restate that. What if it's those of us who are assembled in a space, right? I would like to believe that the people there are more who would act in a respectful, responsible, civil way than there are people who are not. So, like the example you gave, that one person, what if there were others who likewise felt the way that one person felt and said, listen, man, this is offensive behavior. This will reflect, how I feel about this thing. But for whatever reason, that one person had sufficient courage, whatever the motivation was, to speak to it. Where is one other person, or where are the others who feel the same way, to feel so encouraged and courageous to join this other person and say, you know what, there are more of us who don't like whatever this thing is. This don't reflect civilized, decent society. But if we sit down and take it, then maybe through our silence.
Exactly, but the person that is heading the organization, who should be telling them that if this kind of behavior continues, we will have to close it down.
Right.
That's what he should have said.
Right.
He should have came out and addressed the people and said, this type of behavior is not tolerated. This is not human behavior.
Right.
And we're not going to accept it. And if you can't, we will have no authority to call authorities and take you out.
Right.
Because we need to be able to be adults and stop being animals.
But then this is something that is interesting, right? Maybe it is the rush with which we gotta recruit people, whether they're volunteers, whether we're paying them. Maybe it's the unfortunate lack of our assessment process to weed out those people that we put in charge, whatever the reason is. But if the person at the head, right, is not of a sufficient caliber to represent that level of ethos that should be indicative of a civilized thing, maybe we're at greater risk than what you're sharing.
Exactly. Well, that gentleman that is leading our organization should actually he should dismiss himself from that organization, because if he accepts that kind of behavior, because I should take that because I need something, because we're in need. He, as a person in charge, he should expel himself from that department and say, I can't handle it, and let me leave it up, because that type of behavior should not be tolerated from nobody. As I said, they were not children; they were big adults. And I don't know where they come from animals, but it's supposed to be human beings. At least when they came in here, they posed as human beings.
Yeah,
we put animals out in pastures. We don't put animals among people.
Well, I think from what you're sharing, it's very, very obvious that we either are willing or otherwise, turning a blind eye to things, or we are somehow lacking in the capacity to make proper assessments.
Exactly.
So it is unfortunate that we're seeing an increasing number of people behave in ways that we question, but I think probably even more concerning is the growing number of us who are willing to turn a blind eye to it or just accept it.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Maybe, this thing now will be addressed, and if nothing else, maybe the people in that organization.
Maybe you need to start calling names of these people that are giving you such names, but unfortunately, you can't call people names, so.
Well, for some of us, for others of us,
Yeah.
All right.
Some people we can call their names, and some people you can't call their names, so.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best to you. All right, 949-8037, toll free with the compliments of Flo, 1-800-534-8200. No, not true, 8255. Give us a shout during the break. Let us hear from you. Stay tuned for this open line segment of Talk Today.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. We are a non-for-profit member-centric plan with a democratically elected volunteer board of trustees representing all sectors of the Cayman Islands economy. Chamber Pension has an all-in expense ratio of 0.72% over 16,000 members, $430 million in assets under management. We were the first multi-employer pension plan approved by the regulator in the late 1990s. And today, we are still strong, secure, and are here for employees and employers alike. If you would like to join or request further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
20 years.
Remember when Crew Road had no median and Linford Pearson was only 2 lanes?
We do.
When Dirty Reeds was down the street?
We do.
We have been there for the Falls,
the growth, and the rise. When your body and mind needed to change, Powerhouse Gym has been here. We've skated with you. Your first date, your daughter's first time on skates, your son's first strike. From football to squash, to karate and hockey, to bowling and concerts, and everything in between.
For 20 years,
So much has changed, some for the good and some not so much. Through it all, King Sports Center has been here for you, for Cayman.
King Sports Center, celebrating 20 years as Cayman's home for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic, your life connected. You can now renew your driver's license or motor vehicle license online. And you don't need an ESID number. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Visit www.dvdl.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thank you so much for sharing. Thanks to the callers for being not just, courageous, committed, and competent enough to share with us perspective. But hopefully through them, you equally will want to weigh in. Let's see if we can get to a space and a place where we don't find a growing division. Let not the differences divide us, but find that we're unified. We're more alike than we're not. And think about it. For those who go to the buffet, you probably don't pile up the same thing, even the things that you like. You probably get a little variety, right? Well, let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
How are you today?
Just fine, thank you.
Tk you so much, too, sir.
A bit of noise in the background.
Oh, okay.
I just like to say something.
Yes, sir.
Talk about freedom of choice. We have all the freedom you can have in Cayman. We enjoy a lot of freedom that other countries don't enjoy. We complain a lot, and we are very ungrateful. Many of us are. Our situation. It's a good thing that many of us weren't around the Second World War. God knows what would have happened. Complaining people, unable to take a little bit of hard times and obey rules just for a little while. Better our lives. Last year we went through lockdowns, we went through all kinds of things. I didn't hear that much protest, much serious things than now. People were shut down, people can still go around, they can go where they like, they can party, restricted numbers now and then. And I can't for the life of me try to understand where, when will they be satisfied and with what. We're now going to be able to have other choices in vaccinations. We will see just how many people will say, okay, this is what I wanted, a choice of vaccine. I heard some of them saying. Now we'll see if they're really so. I remember when we had this protest against the piers being built and so forth, and we had people putting up a petition to stop it and all this. And it really opened my eyes to how really divided we are and how we are about trying to oppose governments. With any ideas they come up with, some people will stop at nothing. And then after the elections, it opened my eyes to how so many people were just being hypocritical. It was all a political thing, and they just wanted to oppose the government at all costs. In fact, opposition for opposition's sake. I saw it with several people. It disappointed me, but then to a certain extent it did not, because sometimes with one good thing with age, you learn to see through people for what they really are when they're talking to you. Many people, younger people, can be fooled by us older people. Maybe people won't see what I'm saying or won't like what I'm saying, but that's tough luck. I'm saying it anyhow. We have to learn that we can't, each and every one of us, try to think that what our choice is the right thing for everyone. That's why we have elections, to decide who the majority will support. It might not be your choice. It might be mine. It might not be my choice. It might be yours. But that is how things come about. And we have an orderly society. If we all get up and think that we can have our say and it must be our way, we are very, very wrong. Very wrong. It just will not work that way. Life doesn't work out that way. People will have to understand. We will oppose and we get up and we run around with placards. If we like, if we choose, that's our choice. We have to realize there is a consequence to every action. There is some consequence to face. There is. Insurance institutions may say, these people who are not vaccinated, any choice we give them, we are going to raise the premiums for them. And this may happen. We may end up with a lot of people in the hospitals because of their not being vaccinated. They have a lesser chance of being really sick. And that's been proven around the world, so I don't need to emphasize that. The point is, we have to learn that for some time in our life, we will face some things that are uncomfortable, some things that throw us out of our normal daily life, when it's for the good of everyone and when it is reasonable and when it's a very, very important situation like we have now. Most people have never seen anything like this in their life.
Right. Could I ask you, and if you don't mind, I always welcome your input, so thank you for letting me.
I'm not going to say any more.
No. I want you to share as you wish. But your last comment, we got to learn to live with it. And if I can ask you, if we've seen from the media reports and maybe from some of us who may have friends and family in some of those countries, we're seeing in part of Europe, Norway, Denmark, even in Singapore and other places, we're seeing a government pivot now and start to rethink a strategy. Even places like Germany might be doing likewise. To what extent should we, as we look at what has happened in the last 18 months, should we be considering how to live with this without all of these restrictions and seemingly the public health officials in these countries sharing that this episode in our history needs to be reconsidered so that this impact, this economic and financial impact, this social and psychological impact, isn't any more devastating than it already has been?
You make a very good point. That's what I was coming to.
Yeah, okay.
And I've said it from the very beginning. Though we know we were at very limited information in the beginning, we have all kinds of information now. There have been all kinds of things. And we have progressed along and have the vaccine. People say it's not a vaccine because you have to have a booster. That's rubbish. There has been boosters to every great vaccine that was made. Nearly every one they've had to have boosters.
But how those...
We know all that. I don't need to go into that.
Right.
But the thing is, 99% now of people who are affected, let's say it's 95%, don't get seriously ill. We have people dying from the flu every year. We have people dying from malaria every year and so forth. But we don't lock down and we are going to have to move to a stage where we will coexist with this. There will be people around us. There might be hundreds of us might have this COVID walking around. We can't keep testing everybody. It's impossible.
Right.
And we know that. The government is doing an excellent job, and the previous government has done an excellent job trying to keep us safe. But as I said, we're an ungrateful and complaining people, and I will not take that back. what we will have to learn to do is we go to work and we hear someone has been tested positive for COVID, but they're walking around with no sickness. It's as if someone came to work and had the flu, and then we learn. We don't all go home. We don't isolate. We will have to reach that stage very, very soon.
Yes, sir.
Very soon we will reach that stage. Believe me, we will.
Right.
You can always say I'm talking nonsense, but believe me, I am absolutely sure we will reach that stage very soon where we'll accept that we will have to live with this just like a bad flu, and some will die, or some die from a bad flu. So this is where I look at it, and that's where I end my conversation about it.
Yes,
I
sir.
just wish people would learn to comply with the government. Stop, hitting on the government and finding fault with everything. I could do that if I liked at my age, but I can't bother with that. It just doesn't help. Let's try and go along and get along with everything. We're doing well. We're practicing things. And yes, we will see and we will reach the stage in life where we may see soldiers walking around. We have a regiment. It's natural in every country, and you will see that. Believe me, my friend, you will see it. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
And to you as well, sir. And maybe some of the things we see not necessarily are unwanted, but are they necessary? And are they avoidable? Let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I am absolutely great. I am alive. I am blessed. I am grateful to God. And I am glad to hear that you are very well as well.
Amen. Amen.
Thank God.
Thank
Hallelujah.
God. Hallelujah, sister. I say, bring the word. Let us all rejoice.
Yeah, you can go ahead and sing, but if I start singing that,
No.
that's everybody tuning out.
I have a friend. She tells me, no, please, don't sing. Please don't sing.
Anyway, God bless the Cayman Islands.
Amen.
Good afternoon to the Cayman Islands. Dwayne, I just want to share my own views
Yes, ma'am.
for just a moment about the fourth vaccinations of a particular class of people in this country that do not support. And, not even God gave us freedom of choice. Even salvation is by choice. Right? And I was in a conversation just now, and the person referred to the government as your government. And I said to them, I'm not really too sure that I want to own my government at this time. And it's because when I look at what happened, if I go back to 1941 and I look at what was happening in Germany in 1941, and knowing that the beginning of this was based on medical and scientific and making a better society and so on and so forth. And we know what, by 1941, what had evolved. And we know the catastrophe that happened afterward, the human tragedy, And I know that there are government members listening now. I want them to go back and I want them to spend some time researching the origin and history of World War II. And consider whether or not are we possibly, in the smallest way or the largest way, replicating the same action. I'm not insinuating that we are acting communist and as a Nazi or any of the sort. I'm just saying let's look at history, because history is really good for us. It's the ultimate guiding stick, right? Let's just have a look at it and let's think about this. Because in all of our good intentions, we end up on the road to hell. Because that's the very, very strong statement. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Anyway, Dwayne, I just want to say to the expatriates in this country today that my heart goes out to them, to all of them who are oppressed in this country at this time, who feel that they do not have a choice because many of them came to this country by invitation. And getting out of this country at this time is quite difficult. And it's almost as though you've been invited into a house and then the owner slams the door on you and starts making some demands on you. It should never have been made. And so my heart goes out to you today. But even in so saying so, I do intend to follow through with the promises of the Christian Association to support any illegal action against the government.
Mm.
And so as the legal resources continue to expand, and now we have lawyers stepping forward who want to be a part of this challenge because they see the wrong against human rights in this country. You know, I just want to encourage persons to not give up, not to lose hope, but to continue to advocate for your rights to be protected, because the Constitution covers every human being in this country. There are certain rights that are extended to persons in this country who have the title and label of Caymanian,
Right.
and that is right to health care treatment beyond what an expatriate would have. It is the right to economic prosperity beyond
Right.
what an expatriate would have.
Sorry, we are the news break. Do you wish to continue after, or you want to just maybe?
Well, by the time the news break is over, I will be back in my office. So I'm just going to say this. That persons who are interested in supporting the legal challenge, financing the legal challenge, can send us an email at caymanchristiancivics@gmail.com, and we can provide them with the account information. And they should look forward to more communication coming out about the deposit information and so on. Of course, I'll be back on the radio with you on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll share even more details then about the stage that we are at with the legal challenge and so on.
All right. Thank you very much for that. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate
it. God bless the Cayman Islands. God bless you.
Amen.
Have a good one.
You too. And to the other caller, if you are able to, if not, want us to call you back, tell us before you disconnect, and we'll do just that. The news and then more Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
Radio Cayman, the voice,
the heart,
the soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Needs Assessment Unit's district visits continue in October on Fridays. Clients are reminded to wear face masks and practice social distancing and comply with other current government regulations. Friday, October 22nd, the NAU will be at the East End Civic Center from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. for residents of East End. Northside residents will be accommodated at the East End Civic Center from 1 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. In international news, a U.S. judge has temporarily blocked a new law in Texas that effectively bans women from having an abortion. District Judge Robert Pittman granted a request by the Biden administration to prevent any enforcement of the law while its legality is being challenged. The law, which prohibits women in Texas from obtaining an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy, was drafted and approved by Republican politicians. Police in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro say they have found a haul of Nazi items and weapons at the home of a man suspected of abusing a child. Among more than 1,000 items were Nazi insignias, uniforms, flags, and images of Adolf Hitler. The haul is worth about $3.5 million, the man said. The suspect was arrested after a couple from his neighborhood reported him for raping their 12-year-old son. Police are now investigating his links to Nazi and other far-right groups. 9 months after it was rolled out, the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine has finally reached the Antarctic. It was flown in this week to immunize the 23 staff members who've been keeping the British Rothera research station running through the polar winter. This is the most southerly dispatch yet for the jabs developed at Oxford University. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The 9th Annual Cayman Islands District Wesleyan Youth Convention is from October 20th to the 24th at Dwayne Ebanks Civic Center in Northside. This year's theme is On Course with God, # Living My Best Life.
Living My Best Life.
Featuring Naomi Jonathy, Caitlin Bush, Donnie McCoy, Pastor Dolman Bodden, Donna Mitchell, Brian Watler Jr., and much, much more.
Nightly services begin at 7:30 p.m. and from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday the 23rd. Buses are available island-wide and all services will be streamed live on the Northside Wesleyan Holiness Church Facebook page.
Call Cassandra Ebanks on 925-1930 or Pastor Conway King on 916-5372 for further information. The first 25 persons to sign up will receive a free conference t-shirt compliments of Ollie.
The 8:10 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you.
For the record.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM for Cayman's Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record.
Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. It's Thursday. It is October, and before we know it, it'll be Christmas. So I pray that between now and then and thereafter, we'll always be safe. We'll always be willing to socialize as a society and to appreciate, like the callers before, that there is much to be not just thankful that we have, but it's incumbent upon us to champion, to share, to ensure that it is still a very safe and civil and safe society, where people are so assembled that they appreciate the need for, every concerted effort by every single one of us to make sure that the other is as best as possible. So what do we do in order to achieve that? And as some have shared, well, that is just impossible. Some have said, you're looking for that space where things are perfect. Well, should we not aim for perfection, that standard of excellence? Because by so doing, maybe we'll raise the bar so high that, what is it to say, aim for the stars, you might hit the moon. But if we continue to reward mediocrity, as some of the callers have already shared with us, that we seem to be willing to accept a behavior that doesn't reflect our own ethos, one that we don't recognize nor want, nor isn't the one that we think we were raised with or certainly want to, pass on to our children, and yet we stay quiet. And seemingly, we believe the answer rests in them. Well, the question is, something needs to be done. If not me, who? If not now, when? And with the greatest of respect to law and order, to policing, to politicians, are we going to just leave it to them, whoever they are, and not ask ourselves, well, what about us? What can we do? If we draw closer to one another in a loving way, could we not have a better outcome? If there's one person making a decision, as wise as that person may consider him or herself to be, or as much credence that we've placed in that person, maybe that person isn't as wise as we think or the person thinks, or as wise as many heads put together. What is it that we hear through some of the scientists? If they crowdsource, if they are able to put people together, just like designers and urban planners would do with a term that became somewhat repeated without question, the charrette, resurrected from a process that was, by that point, seemingly extinct. But look at what we did with Vision 2008 and with other exercises of that era, where all of a sudden companies were reinventing themselves. They were developing, mission statements. They were developing these core values. Well, if they were, only sort of put forward by one individual, would it have been as good as they are now that they're put forward by many? Would the collective ownership and that buy-in be as willing if they were coming from one person, maybe the top down, as opposed to the buy-in from the collective? Well, you decide. Same thing with hair. We have a annual 1 day or 1 week or 1 month where we pay attention to our environment. One person can make a difference, but would it not be more impactful if we all did? And what if we didn't just do that on 1 day, 1 weekend, 1 week, 1 month, but every day? So that the simple but significant act of taking our garbage and disposing of it properly, now that we are seemingly able to recycle and we can sort and separate certain of our refuse, well, let's do that. Would that not make a better impact? Well, what if we can even go one step further and decide through our purchasing habits that we reduce the purchase of certain things in certain containers, and that may drive innovative approaches? Well, as we invite you to call and share your thoughts, we want to relay some of the comments that have been shared by many, hopefully not paraphrased in such a way that it becomes a parable, but succinctly enough that it becomes something that resonates within. Let us offer up the numbers that by now hopefully you have on speed dial. The toll-free line, 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037, 949-6990, or WhatsApp 925-3261. I'm very, very much being encouraged, I would say, by the increasing recognition that we were seeing more and more division, and people starting to appreciate that that is not something that we want. So there are active measures are being had to bring us closer together. We're being divided like in the past along so many lines, and there's one more thing to pit us and them. But it is the collective we. Many hands indeed can make light work. And many hands and many voices in unison can make for a joyful chorus. And if we are expecting them to do this, or we are blaming them for this, well, are we on that category of them? 949-8037. Let's go to the phones. Welcome. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Oh, Mr. Dwayne.
Welcome back, my friend.
Yeah, so when you talk about hands put together, let's ask about the hands up in the church.
Huh?
Why the hands up in the church not helping us out, yeah? Why they too grateful for us out, yeah?
Sometimes we get sort of misled. We become, at times, somehow misguided, as it were.
Misguided or blinded, you must mean?
Well, maybe that's the process. We're blinded. So what do we do? Because isn't the church us?
If you don't have to be going to the church to try to get acceptance from a church.
Mm-hmm.
And the church is supposed to accept you.
Mm.
If it's really a godly church.
Mm.
If you don't have on slippers and shoes and that and you're not allowed in the church, something wrong with that church.
But the scriptures reminds us, come as you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess many of us who have been away for a long time probably will find any excuse, nothing to wear. Maybe we remember the time that we went, we didn't feel welcome. We sat somewhere that was the seat for somebody else who felt somehow aggrieved that we didn't know that, so we sat in that particular seat.
Yes. But I'm not saying you deliberately go there, barefoot. I mean, and you need a God right now. You see the church right there.
Right.
Go up there, ask the pastor. You can look at all them creflo dollar people, they got all kind of jumbo jets and things like that. Yeah, they're not helping. But we as a leader of the church guide,
right.
You know what I mean? You should be the number one person or places to be helping.
Mm-hmm. But then are we so focused on doing things religiously, even religion and not relationship? Or we will exercise religiously, or we will watch certain movies and film, video, or whatever religiously. Some of us actually come to work religiously. We're on time. But are we productive? Are we happy? Are we adding to the workplace in a positive way? But we're very religious in our endeavors.
Yeah, some people are. Some people think this is apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
The world ain't coming. What do you think? That's in the Bible.
Yeah. But what do you think is causing that? I mean, let me ask two questions. First, what is causing that? What's causing that that division, that level of animosity and acrimony, that level of hate, vitriol that we find in that level of selfishness that we're seeing?
Yeah, that now is coming out because what happened for all these years, we have been tricked, been lied to. You've been saying if you go and you push this little bit further, you might get right here.
Mm-hmm.
You do that, you can check any one of them people up there. They not did nothing in the schools or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If we did that, where we would be? We would still be right here.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And that's the problem. No, we're starting to wake up and saying, I doing my work. I want to get paid exactly for my work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But as I listen,
I'm no slave. I know no zombie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But as I listen to you, I'm wondering, and this is what springs to mind: are we laboring under antiquated, very, very outmoded means of doing things? So, for instance, let's look at two things. Let's look at employment generally. Last year, we probably didn't think that we ourselves could be as productive as we were, having to work from home or from that space that was our office that we got sort of personalized to our own preferences. We went to every day, even on weekends and on days off and the like. Now we're in home in a much more comfortable setting, much more comfortable attire, and our customers are better served. So are we unwilling to think and adopt other measures that are much more gratifying, much more productive?
Yeah, it is, because you imagine that whole thing you were living before, that was like, you have to do all that. Now you see you can get the same or more work done at home.
Right. And
now you feel like, I've been shocked.
Right. And I wonder, because there are some of us, as the supervisor, the employer, we look not at the output, the productivity of the employee, but at their presence. Little Johnny is here every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But in that day, Johnny probably produced one widget. And Susie has been here 1 hour and she's already got 1,000. But Johnny gets the raise because, boy, his nose is to the grindstone. He's there every day, 6 hours for the week. Susie is...
He drink beers with the buddies, you understand? And all that kind of bullshit.
That's what it is, huh?
All
right. So look at policing. And my hat's off, my greatest respect. is for men and women in uniform, and a police officer to me is probably called to do everything at the same time. There's a psychologist and a social worker, they're the counselor, the therapist, they're the educator, they're hopefully the mediator, all these things, right?
And to still keep a personality.
And yet to do it with, as you said, with that presence of mind, that pleasantness of face, right? But are we asking them to do too much, and not too much, but too much all the time, and not cognizant of the impact on that person? And is our approach to policing that colonial mentality of, wrapping you over the knuckles constantly, as opposed to saying, how do we draw alongside? And Sir Robert Peel, if I remember the name correctly, who's attributed to being the father of modern day British policing, talks about the community is the police and the police is the community. How do we draw alongside? We had a commissioner of police, Mr. Gray, many decades ago, and for me, that was the sort of formal introduction of the police to the community in relation to these regular town hall meetings. We actually had town halls back then that we used, and I harken back to maybe a decade even prior to that, or more, when I was in early teens, and as a young group of students organizing through the West Bay Progressive Youth Club, a meeting at the school to get the school and the students and the community to be aware of the impact of drug use and what drugs look like and the like, and to now appreciate that if we don't have that cooperation and coordination with community across all sectors, that we're no more than adversarial, us and them, as opposed to a unified front to make society more stable, much safer, and to give people that sense of security without the need, for a bullying tactic, for a bombastic approach, or some ballistic missile aimed and threatened otherwise.
Yeah, well, when you're doing that, when you get people to change so often like that, then you're often referring to them as a number. Then numbers change constantly.
Right.
Yeah, when you send a police in there to go to number 28 and number 9 and this and that, then he don't have no idea that that's a human when you tell him that's a number. He's already treating that as a number. I have to either divide, subtract, or multiply.
I keep thinking that oftentimes that the challenge is that we are unwilling to ask ourselves, what more can we do? There are many who do a lot, and probably we're asking them to do no more, is like getting blood from a stone. But we're not asking ourselves.
No, we ask the other person.
Right.
What more can you do?
Right. We're not asking ourselves.
Ask them. But imagine all the grandmas, like how they had a touch palm thing around here. You imagine if that was still going to this day.
Yeah.
Imagine if they had kept that going. That would have been Cayman rope.
Right.
No.
But then we are not respecting our traditions, our heritage, our people, our culture. We're not respecting ourselves. We're not respecting each other. And
no, because anything they saw shiny come up in front of them, they sold off anything they had, so that shiny piece of something. It could be a piece of paper, and then they're the ones that had it the best.
Right. But that's on us, though. And I think we encourage, we find it easier to point fingers and to blame. But how many times are we willing to take ownership for our actions or our inactions? I've had people say, man, you're too positive. I've had people say to me, but you're naive. I probably am. But if we don't have noble intents and endeavors, and we don't try to raise the bar, and when we call people out, oh, you're disrespectful, well, maybe we need to call them out, but we need to be willing to not just call them out, but stand in that gap to fill that void that is now,
Yeah, like what you said, we shouldn't pick and choose who to call out.
Right.
Call out who in the world doing the far finish.
Right is right and wrong is wrong.
Wrong is wrong. But I don't know if they got like an eye on just, what I mean, certain things. You saw all kind of things go on, right? But there's not a whole group of women or anything about that,
Yeah.
Like that's so, that's so bad around here for me.
Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder if it's just another trick of the enemy and are we being duped on a daily basis without even realizing. Yeah, man.
You can have the two of them can get married. I gotta get a vaccine, but I can't smoke herb. I can't do none of that. I can't think for myself. I know way I can think for myself. No way.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm worrying that we're not seeing how we've conflicted and confused everything and sometimes conflated it. But maybe there'll be some of our citizens that have enough courage to do the right thing.
Let's just remind them twice a child, once a man.
Okay. All right, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you too. All right. Final short break and then we take the next call. Stay tuned.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Each Tuesday and Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of the Business Buzz is brought to you by Optical Outlook. Visit them at their new location in Anderson Square. Telephone 746-2020. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And perhaps what could be the final call for today. Let's see. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon again, Sterling.
Yes, sir. Welcome back. Yes, sir.
I just like to say, before people say some things about the Second World War, they should understand the significance of that war. It changed the world forever.
Yes, sir.
Right? The only greater incident was the birth and life of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
where we get church from. It doesn't come from other religious organizations. It comes from Christ. There are many things with Hitler's intention to annex the Sudetenland and his joining up with Joseph Stalin, who actually murdered more Jews than Joseph Hitler, which is a very sad thing in history, but that's a fact. Anyway, let's not go into that. But it's a very complex thing, the whole thing. They were about to possibly quite have the atom bomb before the West did. If it wasn't for those brave Englishmen at Peenemünde when they blew up that heavy water plant and so forth. Many people don't want to talk about those issues.
Right.
Anyway, let's put that aside. But the point I'm making is, for orderly society, we must have people who are willing to go and understand the government's intentions that you have elected and so forth, instead of getting up and demonstrating, which everybody has the right to do, and you'll always find that, because people will always want to oppose things. And I said it before to you, opposition for opposition's sake. That is a human trait. I've seen that. And that is it. You want your name in the papers, you want your picture in the papers, you want picture on TV and so forth. I have seen it, so no one can tell me what I'm saying isn't true.
Yes, sir.
And this is where it's at. But we have to realize the reality is we have to try and support our government in their initiative to carry the country forward. These are very, very serious times. We can't go along as the opposition quite rightly says and point out things where you can make amendments to bills and adjust things to a more amenable and acceptable thing. But for us to get up when there are people or families there in Banaka that need and requires help, when there are poor people here that require help, when there are jobs that need to be provided, and concentrate on those issues rather than marching about with placards and stuff. That is just my thought on the whole thing. Let us be realistic. Get behind the government. Try to do things that will help the government to be successful. These are very, very serious times. They're not normal times. A few years ago, nothing like this was thought about. We're going along earning money, everybody with a job. Some people didn't have a job, it will always be, and so forth. But now we find that we're in this situation. We have to come to grips with it, let the government work it out, and let us stand with them and try to help them to work it out. Stand with the opposition, stand with your member of parliament, and work it through that way. Those elected people. We each 23,000 of us on the voters list cannot run the country individually with our individual choices, wants and desires. It will not work that way. Please, I'm asking people, it doesn't work that way. Thank you very much for listening.
And to you, sir.
To me again.
You're welcome. Thank you too. Hey, well, what is today? Therefore, tomorrow and yesterday is gone. Is that one final one, Mr. Fox, or is it this the end of it? All right. Well, to our listeners and for those who are on board, we're living as the caller reminds us, a very small community, not just as measured in number, but as we look at the physical size. 3 islands, 1 people, definitely a lot of differences, but it is that can unify us. So as we invite you to share your thoughts with each other, remember, it's incumbent on us to have an opinion and to share it, but to do so in a very, very responsible, respectful way. And let's see as people that we can be receptive to others, tolerant and accepting, willing to engage. Well, tomorrow is Friday, and we want you to come back for more talk today right after the midday news and midday meditation. But join Mr. Art in the morning for the record. And as we close out today with probably one of great composers and singers and songwriters, Rod Stewart, there's a song that I hope you like. Have I told you lately? Well, maybe I have. Till tomorrow, be blessed.